Or we did a break? We'll be
It'll
done.
be the end, yep. So. We have it, if we're ahead of time, we can work on our answers. All right, let's get started with this work session of the Weaver County Commissioners. Today is Monday, May 12th. I'm Commissioner Sharon Bolos. I have Commissioner H. Furman, Commissioner Jim Harvey with me. We also have Mr. Chris Crockett. Wow, just the four of us. All right, number one, discussion and or action for approval of the minutes for the commission work session held on May 5th, 2025.
Madam Chair, after reviewing those copious notes, I'm happy to make a recommendation that we approve those minutes.
Well, if you're happy to make the motion, I'm happy to second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 2 is closed session to discuss pending litigation, Mr. Chris Crockett, and then I guess we'll have Brian Barron. So I'm looking for a motion to move to a closed session.
So move.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Burke,
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're now in closed session. Thank you.
It's okay.
Okay, I entertain a motion to leave the closed session and re-enter the public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're now back in the public meeting. We're ready for Charlie Ewert, Gary Myers, Rick Grover, Sean Wilkinson. If you could send those people in, please, Christie.
I'm gonna go use the restroom.
Thank you.
There's so many of them.
Right?
Yes.
Which billionaire had Jackson Hole? That's the one I'm gonna share.
Sorry, Commissioner.
Right.
That's his name.
Is this the final copy?
Final copy.
Sir, did you took out the, those two comments that were in there?
I took those out. I also replaced all of the dates with just blank lines, because I had a couple of questions there.
Let's still do that. That's something. Oh, did he leave? A minute ago.
Commissioners, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi.
He sit over
Hey.
there. Long time no see.
It's a little bit.
What?
All right, well, let's get started. We have a tight schedule today, so we need to move right along. Item 3 on our agenda is final discussion and action on the proposed Bridges Master Development Agreement. I have already announced those of our staff who are here, so Charlie,
Are you unmuted? You said remind you to unmute.
Yep.
Okay, good.
sometimes I do need that.
Thanks, commissioners, and thanks for meeting just a little early for this project. Last Tuesday, you guys approved a rezone ordinance for the Bridges project and a development agreement conditioned on the final version coming before you today. And here it is. So I've got the final one for Commissioner Bolos to sign right here. There really isn't a whole lot different than what you guys saw before. We're just cleaning things up. We added in the uses of water reservoir and utility, like we talked about in the meeting. So, and put some objective standards to that as well. Was there anything else that we did differently?
The materials processing, we took the commission's advice.
Oh.
and Changed it from no sale, which was actually not in the body, it was in the design guidelines. We said, now you can use it anywhere within 3 miles, because we realized the county may actually want some of this material for fairways, which would be great. We
Yeah.
couldn't have done that before, so we fixed that. Charlie did find another issue about fairways and reimbursing the county, which actually I'll give Charlie kudos, and it could save the county several $100,000. So.
On days work, just need a raise.
Just keep by that.
Commissioner Harvey, I know attendance at the meeting. I don't know if you have questions.
No, but I did, I've been on site. I did go up and went around and was on site. Saw everything, and if it saves the county money, it saves the taxpayer money. But they don't have to do that, and it just makes it's really makes sense. It's not, this is pretty easy.
Any more questions?
There was the question that you brought up, I think, Bruce, about the acreage, the 250. Did we
fixed it.
clarify
We
that?
fixed it, it's 247, Commissioner.
Okay, so that's been fixed. And what was the, I know the materials was the other item. Was there the third? Like,
We fixed the third right in the meeting. It was just making sure we modified the ordinance
The actual-
language. Yeah, to say that
Yeah.
it's conditionally accepted until,
okay,
I
that
guess
was,
finally.
Yeah.
That was the other one.
Yeah.
Again, staff has done a phenomenal job on this, and we can't thank them enough.
I didn't realize that we were getting ready to pull the trigger on building fairways, and so we had some rules in here about building fairways. But figure it's gonna be a lot, like Bruce said, a lot less expensive if we just have these guys reimburse the county, since we're already
Mhm.
halfway into that.
I was also gonna mention, and again, kudos to you, Charlie, for this. You know, originally we talked about reimbursing the county 2/3 of the road, because we're not really the whole thing. But, you know, at the end of the day, Bridges is gonna do half of fairways and Eagle Crest is gonna do the other half. So we're gonna be right back with the other half that's adjacent to the project. You know, in another couple weeks with that DA. So at the end of the day, development is absolutely paying for development. I just wanna make that really clear, and it's gonna save everybody, you know, $1.5 million, not just a couple hundred.
didn't we allocate some ARPA funding for that, Gary?
We do.
Actually, no, we've got WACOG money.
Waycog, that was it.
Yes, we got-
Yep.
Okay.
And the
Yeah,
WACOG money, it pays enough for the road itself, but it doesn't pay for the pedestrian improvements or anything like that. So those kind of improvements will still come later. As these subdivisions are built.
We will be presenting to you in the next week, or we hope, at the work at your meeting, the Eagle Crest and Kobe Master Development Agreements, which I've already made literally all of the changes that we've made into this agreement that mirror into those agreements. I've already made them. We're meeting tomorrow to fix the exhibits. So we will be back in front of you in a week for a work session on Eagle Crest and Kobe. And they will be really simple, frankly. They're simpler than bridges.
when's that 4,300?
41.
41.
Fairways. Mhm.
That's fair.
When's that start?
Soon as we get it advertised, actually, commissioners, we've been working with.
I know you did a lot on the bridge already.
Yeah.
Bridge is fully under construction as we speak. Girders are supposed to go in pretty quick. Long story short on that, we should be done with that. Probably August, roughly, depends on how quickly things go. In the meantime, we've been working on getting the extension design finalized so we can advertise that and get that out for bidding. Our designer has been finalizing it. They sent us advertising documents last week. Is that right, Ashley? So he and I just have not had a chance to go through them, make sure we're comfortable with pushing it forward to advertisement just yet. We're very close.
Very cool.
So once we advertise it, I would say you're probably a month before we get it awarded to somebody and can start on construction.
And when do you wanna start? When do you think the target date for construction will be?
Love to get going anytime.
When do you think that will be?
But
What's your target time?
probably as soon as we get it advertised and awarded.
So are you saying June, July? or
Yeah.
After the bridge is done and all?
Not trying to mess with you. I mean, probably mid-June, right? Mid-June. Theoretically, depends on how quickly we get it advertised, and then assuming there's no complications through the awarding process. Yeah, we'll get it out as quick as we can.
Listen, I respect the fact that you need to go through a lot of the detail on that, because you know how I am with change orders.
Well, I do. And we also like to make sure everything's in order on the contractor's end of things. There's some insurance we like to make sure we get in place from them. Some bonding, that kind of stuff. So
Okay,
We have a completion date of September 30th.
thank you.
That's what I wanted to hear.
That's quick. Good job.
Get it before
Questions
shelf
on
life.
You okay with me signing this? You okay with me signing this?
I am.
All right, we're ready to go.
Could I?
Thank you.
I wanna be ultra careful, because I don't trust the bad guys. Could I ask you to do a formal motion for that, please? Corlin, you understand my caution?
I'm okay with, I mean,
Yeah.
there was a motion.
I know,
We had the motion and.
I know, I wanna cross my T's, dot my I's, and staple my pants to my stomach.
Yeah, we do have an action, possible action on the agenda, so I'm okay with
Yeah.
that.
So I'm happy to make a motion, Madam Chair, that authorizes you to sign the development agreement as presented this afternoon by Charlie Ewert, as reviewed and discussed at last week's, commission meeting when tentative approval was given, subject to this final review.
Second that
Motion
motion.
and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for assuaging my
Thank you.
paranoia.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. If there's anything we can do to make you sleep better.
Can you step out a second?
Hey, rest.
Madam Chairman, have Craig bring this over to you as soon as we get all the little blanks filled in.
We'll be there, but yeah,
Okay.
I think I'll be back in my office at 4:30.
Okay. Wow, sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Harvey's gonna go to the bathroom, so we've got a minute.
I will give him a break, how's that?
I
LMS,
know we started early and we're back to back to back to back.
LMSA's canceled tomorrow?
Did you have a good weekend, Jessica? Did you have a good weekend? I did. Yeah.
But you did for Mother's Day.
Nothing for Mother's Day. Had kids over. I spent all day Saturday.
Gary, how are you?
I didn't go to any yard work.
Good.
That's great. Actually,
I just was for you.
okay. Well, it was earlier.
Stephanie, do you want?
I thought I had responded to all of them, but did I? It's been a very interesting morning.
I'll pull them up then.
That would be great. That was two.
Exactly what I was.
So what?
It was two and Chris.
Then I,
I did not get a text message from you about the last.
So I this it out so that it matched your.
I got one now, 3 minutes ago.
Okay, so these aren't for me then. You made updates to.
Yeah, I updated the ones you guys, I sent out.
I think so. Well,
I'll text her.
Yeah.
Make sure.
that really legitimately just came through right now.
Funny, I just had to ask about it.
And I follow.
Yeah, because I was like, I didn't see anything from her. I thought,
Funny.
Okay.
I'll practice her.
Oh, good, Sarah.
Just a minute for Commissioner Harvey, by the way. Oh, and apparently Commissioner Fuller.
What made it interesting.
I saw that it was now front and back on
I'm
page.
still here.
I still don't know if it's officially caffeinated for this.
For this?
For anything, for like the whole afternoon. I probably am, in just a moment, yes.
The biggest strength, I did tell you where Mountain Dew originated, right?
Heaven?
Well, I didn't consider Kentucky heaven, then maybe, but it was, you know what it's used for, right? Where it was created?
Don't
To mix
ruin,
with-
don't ruin his life.
To mix with whiskey.
Oh, okay.
It was a whiskey.
You
mixer.
see the sign I've got up in my office, don't you?
Do you have the old original
moonshine?
one?
I don't know if it's the original, but it's like from it's an early one, yeah.
I'll have to look
Yeah.
and see if it's the one that I saw. I saw this whole like documentary on it. It's kind of fascinating. But yeah, it is, it was specifically made to mix with bootleg whiskey.
Well, you gotta make bootleg whiskey taste better somehow. I'm very defensive of Mountain Dew, I mean. And yet I'm also a Mountain Dew snob because I would rather have it in a glass cup from a plastic bottle. I'll drink a can if I need to, but
With ice or without?
with ice, but not a ton of ice. Yeah.
I like.
I always ask
I
for
like
light
cans,
ice.
But I like Diet Coke in a cup of.
Oh, this is where you.
Yeah.
It's in there.
I
I don't.
was skewing over, I was like, I can't take shots.
On ice.
In a cup of ice.
Yeah, I can't drink that, I can.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
sometimes too, but I don't like fresh
It's
stuff
okay.
on ice.
I totally agree with you on that.
This is my lunch today.
Go water down well. No.
I actually had pasta salad from Hug Hess.
Did you really?
Person
You know what?
who was supposed
I
to
could
start the
never
treasurer's
see
office
that.
decided not to start. And so as an apology came in, but
And so I have to find.
pasta salad, I thought, wow, these people just don't show up.
Yeah,
Kind of cool.
Yeah, so
there you go.
there you go.
Where's your brother, Jim? I lost both of you.
Well, right outside the door. He knows we're supposed to be starting.
Good, thanks. Sorry, I meant to call you last week and then got busy at that conference and just.
I think we're
I
gonna.
got that
Yeah,
reference.
I think so.
You got it.
No.
Carol and your other brother down.
Your other brother out.
What is that from?
that from? Which show? I can't remember.
I don't think. I
Carol
remember
and
saying
Val.
it.
Dumb and Dumber brother.
No.
Dumb and Dumber?
Wasn't that one?
I've never been able to make.
We're on twins and
I
these.
think I've tried 4 times, but I can't.
Twins.
I don't think it's funny at all.
Same.
Something
Oh,
wrong with
it's
me.
a 4, no.
Hey,
There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
you.
Like
There's
that.
nothing.
And that was like the, back before you could choose.
Yeah.
They just showed you.
To disagree on that.
I'm not a Dumb and Dumber guy, like it wasn't, like there's been a couple of scenes that I've seen people do that's funny, but like the
It's
show
funny,
itself,
yeah.
I was.
God, it's so, I don't know.
Maybe I should.
Also
give it
didn't like
another
Monty
chance. It was like clear back when it came out. That was all.
I didn't either. I didn't.
I thought it was the first time I watched it, I thought,
Right.
I've just wasted 2 hours of my life, and I'll never get it back. Now,
Napoleon Dynamite.
No, I watched Napoleon Dynamite with a bunch of people and they were laughing, and so it was more fun.
It is so, yeah, it's,
Napoleon Dynamite's really good the third time.
yeah.
The first time I thought that was a waste of my time.
I need to give it another
Didn't you hear
chance.
Chris Crockett say it's based on him?
It is, well, it's not. It's filled with.
That
swears he
knows
knows the
funny.
thing that wrote it. He
I'm
wrote it
telling
about
you.
I do like a couple. It's very big one, Jim.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now that we're unmuted, actually we were that whole time, but, sorry. Item 4 on the agenda, discussion regarding LMSA ARPA project scope change. Brooke Stewart, Stephanie Russell, Sean Wilkinson, Scott Park, Linnell Jensen, no attorney, Ashlyn Tuckett. Did I miss anyone? No. Oh, Jessica Clark. Yes, here we go. We're starting with Brooke. You're first up.
Thanks, commissioners. Thanks for having us. We had LMSA submit a scope of work change on both their infiltration and their lagoons project. So we've invited Stephanie to speak on their behalf to update you on that.
Yeah, so we appreciate this opportunity. LMSA has been working on these projects for a couple of years, and the county has graciously provided some ARPA funding for the administration of these projects, and in the case of the rehabilitation, the actual construction costs. I'll talk about the lagoon project secondly and give you an update on that. So wanted to go through and update you on the lagoon rehabilitation project. As we've gotten into this project, a couple things have come up. And those are that there's some lines that feed into the LMSA system that have infiltration in them. And those lines there's 3 lines. There's one line that goes north, that was not scoped. These lines were not scoped in the original scoping of an inspection of this system when we had originally applied for the funding. So there's a line that goes to Westinghouse. They own that line. It's got infiltration in it as suspected.
Westinghouse does?
Westinghouse, yeah. And then there's another line that runs north, which goes to the Pinnacle properties, which that's suspected also of infiltration. And then there's the Rob Howard line that ties into our main trunk line, which we've known for years has had issues. So I've been working with Quinny, who's the LMSA attorney, and with the board. And the board has made a decision to acquire all 3 of, well, they already acquired the Pinnacle one, but to acquire the other 2 lines and to ask the county if we can change the scope of work. We've come way under budget on this project. And so we'd like to ask for a change of scope of work on this particular one, on the infiltration piece. If you look at that one, phase 1 is completely completed. And then we've added phase 2 to the scope of work, which is line acquisition of 900 South conveyance. And that's the Westinghouse acquisition of the 3550 West conveyance, which is the Howard line. And then that project would include line inspection of all 3 of those lines, including the Pinnacle line, which was never inspected in the original scoping, and then repair of those 3 lines. So that basically, if you'll flip over to look at the budget, our original budget for this project was $250,000 of ARPA funding. And with this added scope of work and the change and these added 3 line projects, that would bring our total project budget to $214,015. So what we're asking for is we're actually coming under budget, but we're asking for approval of this scope of work change. And that would add in acquisition and then the inspection and repair of all 3 of those lines. And that would complete, the LMSA system would be a complete system, it would be completely repaired. And they would have ownership of all of the laterals that go into that system, which they currently do not.
So are you saying that with the scope of work change, you'll still be under
It would be
budget?
under budget, yeah.
So where's your scope of work change?
The scope of work changes this phase 2
Right.
gauge, sorry, this is right here. This phase 2 is the scope of work change.
All right.
So we've completed phase 1, which was the original scope of work.
Commissioner Harvey?
Just to be clear, and I know you just said this, but I just want to be clear. You're going, so the board out there has decided to take the 3 lines that they've known to have infiltration,
We didn't know they had infiltration until recently.
okay? Sorry, I misspoke. The 3 lines that there is known infiltration in them, and they're going to dig that or sleeve them or something, so there will no longer be infiltration in those lines.
Correct. And
Okay.
those 3 lines currently feed into the system. And that's why we're still having infiltration issues.
The one line, by the last one that you said was an illegal line in the first place.
Yes,
An illegal hookup.
exactly.
So that's it.
Which is why the board wants to go after that line and just acquire it, because what's happening on that property, just from a development standpoint, is no one can get will serves and develop on that property because the line has issues and it's not a legitimate line and a connection, and it's currently plugged by LMSA. We've plugged it because they flooded our lagoon system.
Okay,
So we've talked to the property owner and he's willing to give it to us, deed it to us if we just take it.
and
As
the,
is.
and the easement and everything else for it.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So the acquisition is actually not gonna cost us anything. We just have to pay for the infiltration repairs.
I don't wanna
Both of
get in
those
the way,
lines.
I don't wanna get in, Madam Chair, for me, I don't wanna get in the way of what the board has already decided. This, I think, makes good sense. I know that the fees, for service can be adjusted to make sure that, the LMSA is made whole on this, and so I would hope that that's happened and that the taxpayers not being, made it, responsible for this, and so I don't have any problems with this as presented.
Questions for you?
No question. I think I'm fairly familiar with this, so, I mean, the part that concerns me, we're not paying anything for the Westinghouse line, right?
Not at all. Mm-mm. Yeah,
Oh.
at the very worst, we would just do an easement with them and then we would just have access to it and it would be our line and we'd have that easement corridor. So we're not paying for the line or anything. We're just getting easement and access and ownership of that line.
Okay, and so I'm assuming it kind of goes back to what Commissioner Harvey said. In order to do that, we would expect that Westinghouse fees would increase. And then, because we're now
Absolutely.
taking ownership of that. Is that correct?
That is correct. And the board is going through a fee assessment right now.
Okay.
And they will be doing, not only will they be doing fees, increased fees for all the current users, but anyone coming onto the line. We're looking at doing an impact fee analysis and there would be an impact fee also to any of the new additions to that line. As it relates to just the lagoon system.
And we're talking county ARPA on this.
Correct. This one is solely county ARPA.
And where are we with the state ARPA?
That one I'll talk about with the lagoon.
Okay.
That's the next
That's the next,
piece. I'm gonna keep them separate.
Yeah.
So, Brooke did a really great job of updating the scope of work on the slides as well as the budget to show you where we're at. Once again, we had originally been allotted $250,000 for this project. And we're looking at coming in at 214.
Okay.
So there'll be a little bit left over.
yeah,
Linnell, Scott, Brooke, any concerns?
I think the only questions I have is just on timing.
Yeah.
Do you feel confident that you'll be able to?
Absolutely.
have the
So,
rest done?
as soon as this gets approved, we'll be scheduling the line scoping for all 3 lines. Quinny's already started. That's why I've got 10% completed on this. We've already started acquiring the lines. We're gonna do that regardless of what happens. And so he's already started on that. We'll be, getting that wrapped up. As soon as we acquire the lines, we can start the actual inspection and repair. So we're close.
What's the time estimate on inspection? and repair?
Inspection's quick. We can do that in a couple weeks. And then repair based off of the one we just did, that only took about a month. So, and we've already done we'll do the bid process exactly the same as we did before. We put that out for bid and for RFP and we'll do the same thing. This one we don't actually need an RFP on because it's so simplistic. It's a service agreement.
The only thing I would say is on the bottom side, it says all funds must be expended by December 31st. I think we'd put in there June 30th. If I recall, maybe we extended.
Yeah, that's what that was my question.
Yeah,
This June?
June 30th, no, June 30th,
26.
2026.
That was 26.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
sorry.
basically 13 months from.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we're on a worse timeline for
Okay.
the other one that I'll talk about in just a minute. So
Okay.
I'm on a way worse timeline.
Yeah, as long as this can be done, if that gets small enough that I'm not worried about this one.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
Next
agree.
one.
next one, okay. Update on this one, LMSA's lagoon rehabilitation. Just as a friendly reminder, this project is partially funded by ARPA funds from the county. And then the majority of the funding comes from an ARPA appropriation from the state legislature. And I've broken that out on the back page, but I want to talk a little bit about the update on the scope of work for this one. We recently received some state discharge regulations that are being imposed on the district. And so we've had to do a little bit of revision on this scope of work to make sure that we're in compliance with the state discharge. We do have a discharge permit. LMSA does have a discharge permit with the state. So we're still working through that right now. We have hired Aqua Engineering. They were, the winners of the RFP and the bid, and I'm working with Aqua Engineering right now to see if we can't get around the state requirements, which will actually be to the county's benefit. In a couple different ways, but for now, I've left those requirements in the budget. They might come out in the next month or two, depending on the negotiations I'm having with the state. So, the revised budget, includes, we went through and based off of Aqua Engineering's estimates, came up with a budget for the lagoon rehabilitation, and this highlighted section will be paid for out of the state appropriation of $120,000. And then the rest is paid out of the ARPA funds for, from the county, and that goes up to a new budget projection of $183,600. We were originally given a $300,000 appropriation from the county to, for that. So there's a little bit of savings there for you guys, for the county. So the 120,000 projected, will leave a significant balance out of that $5 million. So our state contract that we have with DWQ says that whatever money we have left out of that appropriation goes to the lift station and the line for Promontory Commerce Center. LMSA is in the process of working with Central Weaver and Promontory Commerce Center to acquire that lift station and that line. So this is a really good investment for LMSA to streamline their lagoon, which is gonna be a temporary system, probably for the next 5 years. The land lease expires in 2033. So this will be, and it has limited capacity, so we basically can put just 1 or 2 more users onto that lagoon before it hits capacity. So that'll be out there, and the idea is that Central Weaver and LMSA partner up and do a line that goes all the way out to 9300 at some point. And what I mean by Central Weaver partnering up is they will take the wastewater to their new treatment facility that they're expanding. LMSA will own and operate all the lines west of the river, including that lift station at 5900.
West of the river. Okay.
West of the river for now. So that lift station, it's a good investment for LMSA to take the remaining money from this state appropriation and invest it into the lift station, which was the original contract that was signed by LMSA, the county, and BWQ. Any questions on that? The match?
But I'll wait.
The match?
The match,
The
yes,
match.
the match.
Here's where it gets great for you guys. So the original contract had a match agreement in it. So if the lift station doesn't happen, the county would have to pay match money on the lagoon rehabilitation. We originally estimated that lagoon rehabilitation to be around $2 million. We've got that price tag down to $120,000.
What?
Yeah. You can thank Brad Rasmussen for that. Because we're diverting most of that funding to the lift station at this point.
That's,
So if in the event the lift station doesn't happen, which it's slated to happen, and I'm working very closely with Black Pine to make sure it happens by May 2026 is our deadline for this with the state. If for some reason it doesn't, the county would be on the hook for $12,000, 12,000, 10%.
It's 10% match.
10% match.
Hmm.
So that's the change in the scope of work in the budget for the lagoon project. It's highly favorable for the county right now. And once again, LMSA is going into the collection business, so they are putting a lot of pressure on Promontory Commerce Center and Central Weaver to get these deals signed, sealed, delivered, and that construction happening. And then that also frees up over $4 close to $5 million for the lift station. Which by the way, has had to be redesigned to accommodate depth in that area because of gravity. Gary's been working with Promontory on that, and that has been completely redesigned, so the cost of that has actually gone up significantly.
What is the cost now?
I think it's close to 8 million on that lift.
Okay.
So this 5 million is gonna
Wow.
be really beneficial to that lift
So-
station, and that lift station is gonna serve all of the development in that area.
So we won't be losing any of the state's money.
Nope.
We may be likely will be using less of the county's ARPA money.
Significantly less, because originally I was appropriated 300,000, and we've got the budget down to 183,600. So there's a little bit of free up
Mhm.
there.
So our plan for that, Scott, revenue recovery? Okay,
Yeah, so we basically over obligated our revenue recovery for anything that gets left over.
Mhm.
So I mean, we have plenty of other places in the county we could go back and say, okay, you take this revenue recovery to reimburse us for X, Y, or Z. So at this point, the funds already had to be obligated, so we can't go find a
Right.
new project. Yeah.
Right.
So
We just put them in the
But it
revenue.
goes-
yeah, because we over obligated that, knowing that this might happen.
Mhm.
So we have a whole bunch of other eligible standing costs, so we'll just say, okay, well, we're gonna use it for that one instead.
Mhm.
So between this one and these two projects, it's looking, that was 550,000, and we're down to 1, 2. So I can't do math really quick. Someone do math?
183 and 214.
Yeah,
About 400, less than
So
400.
doubtful.
yeah, so a little bit of savings for the county, and then not being on the hook for that 10%.
Right.
And then providing a regional solution for the sewer
Yeah.
in that area.
So I'm still at a loss. LMSA, is that a county project or is it completely separate?
They're a separate district.
Cause didn't we evaluate it as a county project? It seemed like we did an internal memo for that, assuming that it was county related,
I can go
but
back to look
I
to see
mean,
how
I'm
it was
not
funded.
saying, I'm just saying it's
So-
changed scope from the original application came in late.
So there's two applications.
Right.
So the rehabilitation of the lagoon system
Mhm.
is not a county project. I mean, it is a county project, but it's state funded. And it's county supported with some of the ARPA funding. But the infiltration one is solely LMSA. The
Okay, we just might need to look at it.
the money for the lagoon project passes through the county. You guys are the.
I just was
and-
lost as to what is this entity? Is it Weaver County or is it its own?
It's its own entity.
Separate.
It's a service district.
When we originally did the application, we thought that we would be managing the project, and
Mhm.
so we did the internal application, not because it's an internal entity, but because we thought we would be doing it ourselves through our purchasing, through everything. We subsequently pivoted after that, and we didn't have you in that position to start it. And so that's why we filled out those applications that way, but we do have an actual.
It was actually a state appropriation that we got through the legislature.
Yeah, well, no, the county funded.
The county got it. Oh.
What she's saying is the county, so we filled out the
Gotcha.
internal application, not the external
Mhm,
application for the county funded portion.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about
That's
Jack
correct.
contract. Yes, that's correct.
And just to confirm, we're still gonna have enough, because we have, if we're able to spend the full 5 million of the state, we've had to come up with 4.2 million of match money that we were going to use from Black Pine as a developer.
Yeah,
We're going to have more than the 10 million.
way more.
Okay,
Yeah,
we just don't want to be on the hook for any.
we will not be
Don't
on
wanna
the
be on the
hook.
hook.
And DWQ is insistent that we spend all 5 million of it. Like, they want it spent too.
Yeah, because it's too late to reallocate it to anybody
Exactly.
else. Yeah.
Can't do anything else with it.
Exactly. So they're riding us too on this.
But we will, I mean, we're not gonna have. a
We
problem.
will, we're just, and I'll tell you this, the lift in the line is designed and it's ready to go. It's just not bond funded yet. The PID has not gone to the bond market. That is the hang up right now. And then, while we're waiting for that, Quinny and I will be working with Central Weaver Sewer, to get those contracts in place to get. Currently, Central Weaver Sewer is the designated, recipient of that infrastructure, according to PID. So that's another thing that will be coming back to you, to talk about is we'll have to, once we get that contract changed and Black Pine signs a contract with LMSA and local agreement, we will come back and we will have to do a revision to the governing document of that PID. So just a heads up on that. So there's 4 different legal steps we have to go through to make sure that LMSA is the owner and operator of that lift station in line. Just heads up, but this gets it built.
Anything else from outside the table?
You guys have sure done an awesome job on this whole thing.
It's complicated.
Thank you so much for how you've just watched over that. Thank you so
Commissioner
much.
Shore, anything else?
No, I think we had the right direction. Still a lot of work to be done before we're there, but
Yep,
we just need to make sure that that bond gets placed, because that's the hangup.
that's the big hang up right now.
You're not gonna do it for 5 million, so you better come up with another
So
3 to
there's,
5 real quick.
there's a contingency to that gauge. If that doesn't happen, then inland port will step in and do a loan. And we'll get it, and we'll get it funded and
A
built,
loan to who?
promontory common sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the worst case scenario. It will be built and reimbursed by May
So
twenty
the
twenty-six.
inland ports agreed to that already?
They're working on an agreement.
Okay.
With them.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
good.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for, yes, thanks. Okay, item 5 on our agenda is a discussion regarding Lomond redevelopment agreement and rezone. Sean Wilkinson here, looking for Charlie Ewert, Rick Grover, Liam Keough, and Gary Myers. Oh, miss.
Oh, you
That
know
was
what
a foul.
I'm gonna do, Scott?
That was a
I know how
foul.
much you like donuts. You have to try festival. Ask Sean what festival is.
Okay. Festival.
I'm gonna make festival, I'm gonna bring it in. And we're all
Festival's
gonna-
amazing.
Oh, no, it's beyond amazing. And if you think you like donuts, you don't even know. You don't even know yet.
Like a really good donut's good, but like a Krispy Kreme or a grocery store donut,
No,
it's not even worth the calories.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%, but when you try festival, you'll never do that.
I wouldn't try something.
Okay, I'm gonna learn how to teach myself how to do it though.
Okay, well, let's practice a little bit.
Okay. Sean. I couldn't stop eating festival.
His coffee's done.
You got 5 seconds left.
Had to go fight with the coffee machine.
Sure is.
All these development agreements.
Another one, Charlie? You have a lot of trees today.
There's also one more coming in.
Wow.
Okay.
Good news from them.
I've already introduced you, Charlie, and the agenda items, so,
Dive right in?
let's get started.
Perfect.
Here's the next one, Charlie.
Actually, I think that's the other one.
Okay.
Joining.
Isn't this one Bridges? If you want to read it, that was the Bridges one.
Please.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm gonna guide you guys' attention to, let's just flip over to page 43 in that development agreement. So this is just a draft development agreement. We're close on this project. This project it's called Lomond View. A couple of you might know it as Cherokee Farms. But we're not supposed to use that word anymore, so Lomond View is the name of the subdivision. It's up there at the very end of 3600 West. So, the planning commission, it was actually a little over a year ago, January, in 2024, they passed a positive recommendation for this rezone. It's a rezone. Can't remember how many acres. Do you guys remember how many acres you got?
We're about 140.
And we're talking about roughly 360 dwelling units, is that right?
A little bit more than that.
We can share, we.
We got it. So,
Say that all again, will you?
it's about 140 acres and we're looking at a little over 360 units. It might be, are we north of 4 on this one?
Yeah, I think we're like 450 or something on that.
So what we did with this one, same thing that we've been doing with all the other ones that they're asking, that the developer's asking for a rezone to the R115 zone. We took the gross area, divided it by the 15,000 square feet, and that's the number that came out. So the 400 and some odd, sorry, there's too many of these going around. I can't remember what the numbers are. But the 400 some odd number, that's straight from the math. So a couple things to think about here. They are willing to give the county 3600 west and essentially stub the right of way right to the river to the north. They'll build as much of that street as they need to develop and to get to the trailhead on the north-hand side. But right now, we know that Marriott Slaterville is not interested in picking up that road on the other side of the river. And so it may take a while for that to ever actually go through, if it ever does at all.
So the plan is for a bridge, not for a trailhead and a dead end?
It is both a trailhead. So yeah, this does dead end right into the trailhead. The trailhead will stay, but a bridge is intended.
Okay.
So, and that's just long-term, that's part of your general plan. I know, Marriott Slaterville, they're not keen on how that road connection is made or where it's made. They've got some floodplain concerns there. But planning for the future, 50 years down the road, things might change and it we'll regret not having a stub if we have to tear houses down to get it. This does line up nicely to 3600 West, that goes right up to the grocery store in Plain City. So just thinking long-term, if we could ever get to that point. This applicant, we were talking about the 300-foot green space buffer from the river. We did mention to the applicant that we've got a couple other developers who are bringing that down to 100 feet. They said, we're so far into the design on this, 300's fine. They've already made that commitment to the park district, so they're just fine donating that land to the park district.
So everything in green will be donated?
That's correct, to the park district.
So is that the park then, the green?
Yep.
Yep.
That's the Weeper River Linear Park. I'm hoping that we can draw a really great comparison at long-term to the other projects that are going on next to the river with 100 feet. 50 years from now, if this turns into a homeless shelter or a homeless encampment and the other one turns into a really great place to hang out, then we'll know that 300 feet was a mistake. If this turns into a really great asset for the community, we'll be able to draw some good conclusions at some point in the future, but I'm anxious to see what those are. They are going to build a pathway down that park. They're going to donate benches, one bench every 800 feet along that pathway. And they're going to build a trailhead on the north by 3600 and on the southeast side. And the span between those two trailheads is about a mile.
Like both ends of the green?
Yep. So some pretty significant giving from the developer on this. The Parks District is satisfied with the request as well. In that river corridor, if you'll flip the page over to page 53, we usually ask for a 10-foot wide multi-use asphalt pathway. They have proposed instead an 8-foot wide asphalt trail and a 4-foot wide equestrian trail. Equestrian, or if it's compacted, you could get jogging in there. I know when we chatted a little bit, I don't know, 2 or so years ago about this, there were a lot of different thoughts on how this cross section could go. This is what they ended up proposing. If you guys are comfortable with this, it gives, I think it tips the hat to the agrarian nature of the community, knowing very well when you look at the master plan that lots of this size are not going to have horses. So that is very much a gift from the developer to that community. in the trailheads, we're asking for a certain number of parking spaces for the big trailers as well. So they've got some cool stuff coming in. The trailheads will have parking lots, restrooms, maintenance facilities, things like drinking fountains, bike picnic stands, stuff that you'll find along the Ogden River Parkway right now. Taking the amount of green space that is in here, we are looking at rezoning that green space to the O1 zone. But we're not looking at penalizing the developer for the amount of acreage that's in the O1 zone. So basically just taking the density that they would get if the whole thing was R115 and applying it to the areas where they are developing. And 3600 West, like I mentioned, is supposed to be a through street. It's also intended to be a no access street. So the only places where access will occur along the street is at formal street intersections. So we'll eventually, hopefully, have a pretty cool street up there that is meant to move people around their community. And then once you pull into the neighborhoods, that's where you'll have your neighborhood oriented streets. They've also volunteered to put decorative fencing along 3600 West to make it attractive as well. Fencing and trees and all that. Planning Commission, from a year and some change ago, they recommended approval of the project. We took it back to the Planning Commission again in the fall because they did a little bit of reconfiguration with their layout. We just wanted to make sure the Planning Commission didn't feel like it needed to come back to them for a public hearing at that time, and they said, no, they're good with the layout. They don't think it needed to come back to be reconsidered by them.
Has anything changed since the fall when they last saw this?
There has been a little bit of reconfiguration again, but it hasn't been a configuration difference between what they last saw. Enough that I think they would care. But we could always, if you would like, we could always take.
What changes?
But right along 3600 West, one of the things that we had originally asked for is a lot more intersection. And then as we got thinking about 3600 and the limited access nature of it, it's probably better to not have as many of those neighborhood intersections. In favor of rather having a little bit greater distances between those intersections. And there's two reasons why. Along 3600 West, there's going to be a multi-use pathway. So not only is it good to have less driveways when you got a multi-use pathway, but it's also good to have less intersections.
Will it be on the east side?
It will be on the east side. Yep. So we're asking this developer to build that pathway. So there'll be river pathway, 3600 pathway. There's a few other pathways that are going through the development as well. One of the benefits of master planning a project at this scale is our codes have our pathway frequency, one pathway intersection every 400 feet. When you're doing a 20 acre or a 40 acre subdivision, that makes a lot of sense because you don't know where they're going to be on the next guy's property. It is a little excessive, but it makes sense because you're trying to figure out what the unknowns. When you got a big project like this, it's a lot easier to know how those can be laid out. They don't have to be one every 400, they could be one every 500, or just something that makes it convenient and efficient for the people who live there, given that we know how the whole thing's gonna be laid out. The big concern or the big challenge with this project is secondary egress. The development agreement spells out that they have to provide secondary egress before they can go beyond 30 homes at the end of 3600, and there are quite a bit of homes on the end of 36 now. So they may be able to get 10 or 15 homes in there max before they have to build that emergency egress. Right now, the emergency egress is intended to take 700 north to the west, head back to 4300 west. All right, in my haste to get into the details, did I miss anything you guys have questions about?
This blank space not part of the project?
Good question. That blank space is not part of the project right now. We are in discussions with that landowner. They do have a subdivision proposed for that piece. It's just a 2-lot, large acreage subdivision. We're working with them right now on some future possibility of either combining or finding some mutual benefit for both landowners. At the end of the day, this landowner, he may just want to have a big lot with a big house on it. But he's still not sure, especially if he's got smaller homes and smaller lots going in next door. Not quite sure if he wants to invest that kind of money into a big horse property. So he's kind of waiting to see whether this gets approved. And if it does get approved, then he'll start making decisions on something from there.
two more things. Oh,
Hasn't he built a large barn on there?
There is a large barn on that right there.
on the smaller piece on the east?
No, it's on the bigger piece on the west of
Okay,
the road.
okay.
And it's actually,
Same property owner though, on,
it is right now. It hasn't been split yet, but it is proposed to be two lots. One is the smaller one is the bigger one, and he's got his barn on the bigger one, and that's where he wants to put his big house too.
okay. I have two more comments and then I'll go to you, commissioners, if that's okay. First of all, I know that we're leaving a 300-foot buffer, but the last thing I wanna do is approve 450 units and then come back in the future and say, we want more units because we're shrinking that.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the project, if we make that decision, I feel like the density needs to be taken out of that. If we're gonna make that more narrow. The
Okay.
density needs to be shifted. I'm not gonna be willing to give more density.
Agreed.
The other thing is, I know it's small and likely inconsequential, but I would like the planning commission to see this again. I
Okay.
don't wanna in any way make them feel like we're circumventing them. And so it's probably not gonna be a big deal. It's not a huge change from what they saw last fall, but last fall was a long time ago.
Okay, no worries. We can get it on their agenda, their work session agenda pretty quick.
Commissioner Fuller?
I was gonna bring up the same thing, I'd like to see it go back to planning commission. And with instructions, I would like to make sure, what did you tell me the number of homes can be built before they have the secondary access?
30 total, 30.
30.
And I think there's close to 15, 16 right now. If you don't count the two lots where the gentleman
So
is,
who's gonna be in charge of making sure it doesn't go over 30?
it'll be the planning division. Yeah, as soon as we get up to a certain number, there's gonna be no more permits issued in this project, really, or anywhere along 3600.
Okay.
Fire won't give approval, right?
Right.
And that's in the development agreement?
We do have in the development agreements, also in the International Fire Code.
Okay.
Yep.
I just get concerned about that. All of a sudden, we show up there and got 50 homes and we still don't have a second. So the secondary access, Gary,
Yep.
needs to be taken care of.
Absolutely.
Yes, we agree.
The other thing that I had a lot of concern about, the other thing that they said, we're gonna put some skin in the game, they're gonna escrow for that egress up front.
Okay, well, as
So
long as
have
it's,
that cash.
set in concrete, no, 31 homes will not go in there without a second, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it goes back to planning commission.
Perfect.
Yeah, those are my two.
Commissioner Harvey?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the 300-foot and applying for more density later. That's a big deal. My comments on this would be just, and you talked about the second egress. If there is building going on across the river and they take the same road and they put it up, so it lines up. Who pays for the bridge?
It's a good question. And it's something that those of us who are here 15, 20 years from now will probably have to answer. It's probably gonna be impact
Say we're
fees.
gonna cross that bridge when we get to it.
After some of the water's gone under it.
So there's two bridges then.
One on 700 and one on 3600.
Yeah, I see that.
And normally, if we knew that we had something to line up to on the other side of the road, river, excuse me, I would ask the developer to be putting money in,
Mhm.
to build it. But
At
we're,
least partially, right?
yep, but where Marriott Slaterville has been very clear that they don't want a bridge on 700 or 3600. We're planning in anticipation that they might change their mind in the future, but we don't want to force.
If not, then it'll just be a.
They might.
Be a great trailhead, be a great road that goes to a trailhead. That's right.
One of the things, because I've been paying attention, as you've been taking us on these field experiences with the planning commission, is the value of lots that are along waterways. And some of those lots are a little bit bigger and they can accommodate nicer millions, $2, $3, $5 million homes along those places. The developer has found a way that he takes those sections and I'm thinking about Vineyard right now.
Yep.
And so that it makes it even that much more difficult if things were to change there. I agree with when you talked about additional density. So we're basically taking the third acre and because they're doing that 300. I'm honestly, I'm not quite all the way there yet. I respect what the planning commission said. I don't want to do a taking. But this 300-foot buffer is something that's been in the state code for decades and decades and decades. I think we're being very generous by even considering I'm glad that the developer said, okay, we're gonna give up that acreage. The additional density packed into there is something that concerns me. The only other thing too that I would like to do as we head in this direction has to do with making sure that we have some deed restrictions as it relates to the higher density. Deed restrictions on those units. I'd like to see 25 years, but at least 10 years at a minimum. And then I'd also like to see something to do with that 55+ community. So that there's something to do with those who are a little older.
10-year deed restriction, what are we restricting? Are we ownership?
Ownership. Yeah,
Primary ownership.
primary owner occupied.
Let me ask you a little bit about density and moving that density around. If you didn't have as much of the buffer and you spread some of the homes into that extra space, what are the development impacts that you're seeing that a higher density does, or excuse me, a smaller footprint of density does versus spreading them out a little bit?
Well, first off, I don't know that we do want to go into that 300-foot space. You made a presumption there that if we did go into that space. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm saying we may need to preserve that corridor. In some places for sure 300 feet, some places may be wider, some places it might be could be maybe a little narrower. I think on average, but I think whatever would be best for the habitat in that area, but also for the people. There are some places I can tell you that I don't know that you need quite 300. Back over in here, back over in here. I'm just saying, just from what you've told me, I don't want it to be a magic line. The other thing that concerns me is in my lifetime, rivers move.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 300 feet today. And in 10 or 20 or 50 years, it's not 300 feet.
Yep. That's one of the things I liked about the 300 feet is it does allow that river to move without having
Yeah,
huge
so-
impact on neighbors.
That's just part of the cancer of the crop piece.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know, I'm not, this is kind of a first blush at it since I've seen it from a long time ago. I'm super happy that there's a different name on the development. I can't even tell you what that is. But I can tell you this much density, I've got a little concern with, without that, just saying.
Good to hear. Commissioner Farrar, I got one little gift for you in here as well.
I like this.
It's on page 19. I highlighted it.
I think I already saw that. Thanks for marking that in yellow for me.
And just so you know, I wanted to make sure I pointed that out because we've got it in all of our standardized agreements now.
Good. Wow.
This is one of our first ones going through the full process with the standardized agreement, so it's actually been really slick and really good to do.
It should be standard. Everybody needs
Oh.
water and sewer.
Oh, boy,
Highlighted for Commissioner for.
Finally, yeah.
well, that's nice.
Want me to initial that for you?
Okay,
Okay, anything else for me?
the feedback that I think you were seeking.
Hope that helps you.
I think. Work.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay,
we'll come back when they're ready for a hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Item 6 on our agenda is a discussion regarding Bitton Herrick Development Rezone from A1 to R1 30.65 acres located at approximately 601 South, 3600 West. Felix Severino is.
Commissioners, while we're resetting the room, could I just bring one other thing before you?
I don't know, can you?
I don't know.
Is that allowed, Lynn?
This is off topic? Yeah.
That's a yes.
I was waiting for you to say no. So,
Is it
Commissioner,
off topic?
it is off topic.
Can we do that? Okay. we can
I'm
do
not.
that.
Okay.
Better not.
We'll schedule this.
shouts, I need to be a tissue.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Okay. We have-
Right there.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you are. I saw you online. I thought.
Sorry.
Now we got a whole group there.
We do have and we're a little behind, so Charlie, I don't know what that means to you, but we have 10 minutes.
Oh, we did get that.
We have Felix Yavarino, Charlie Ewert, Rick Grover, Sean Wilkinson, Liam Keel, and Gary Myers, so. Felix,
Yes.
this is yours.
Yes, thank you, commissioners. Just to kind of give you a quick preface of what we're looking at today is another request to rezone property. So this area is in the Western Weaver area.
Felix, would it
Yes,
take too long for you to pull that up on the map, or if it does,
not at all.
interrupt your little
We got 'em.
presentation?
Yeah.
It looks fair, I'll pull it up while you present.
So yeah, Western Weaver area, and this property fronts on
It's right here.
3600 West. And there are two property owners involved with this. You have the Bittons and the Herricks. And their property spans across the two main streets, the 4100 West and the 3600 West. And I'm just gonna go to the, you guys can go to the picture of this. Get up there. So that, you can see how, there's access through, it's a connector street that would run through. And there's also the total acreage for this property is roughly 30 acres, which is, it would allow about 88 units. And the zone that they're requesting in this one is the R115. And like I mentioned, so the plan for this is to, have a gravity sewer in this area, Central Weaver Sewer District. We have those ability to serve letters from the water and secondary water district. So those facilities are available for this property. And one thing that we took this before the planning commission last month. And there was a positive recommendation from the planning commission to approve this. It was a 4-5 decision. There was some debate that took place regarding the pathway on the south side of the property. If you look, let me just see if I can get my mouse over, it's even visible. So right here where my mouse is moving around a little bit. There was some debate on how that trail should align, because the general plan shows a pathway going along that Hooper Canal. And there hasn't, as far as staff and the developer goes, there hasn't been a lot of communication with the Hooper as far as that trail alignment within their easement. So that's something that the planning commission was pretty adamant that there be an alignment close to or on top of that Hooper irrigation easement.
So commissioners, the Hooper Canal runs here. And that, then it curves down, the south. We try to get here. Yeah. That runs just to the south of the project here. The planning commission did have a lot of discussion about it. Not a 4-5, but a 3-4.
Thank you. 3 or 4, excuse me, yes.
Decision.
Yes.
I'm assuming 4 in favor.
4 in favor. Okay. 3 against.
And the 3 against were all because of the canal?
Well, I got the impression that there was some disagreement that they felt that pedestrian access could still be accomplished via this plan as shown. However, I think that Commissioner Edwards' recommendation was favorable to the majority of the commissioners.
So I think the motion or one of the motions was to approve as long as they figure out how to get the easement and the access and the rights to build a trail on Hooper Canal. And was that a 4-3 vote in favor, or was it for the 4 against that motion?
It was 4 in favor of that motion.
It was a tough debate.
I think I would like to see a plan B in case they don't get permission. I would like the planning commission to work with the developer and see if they can have a plan B set up where. Because that's important and it's a part of our general plan. I'd hate to approve it. And have the building start and the permits start and then we come back and find out we can't build on that canal.
Canal companies historically aren't real good.
Yeah, they're not really
Giving the right of
cooperative.
ways.
We did have some feedback in the meeting from Commissioner Edwards, who, is he on the board, Hooper? Or maybe he was at one point. Apparently the president contacted him and said, hey, we're not saying no, but we are saying no
Yeah.
one's talked to us about it yet, which is true. We haven't had the time or the staffing resources to reach out and collaborate. We've got at least 2 developers in the room who I've asked to put their heads together with all the other developers in that area
Yeah.
who were asking the same thing, see if they could come up with a solution from Hooper Canal as well.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that before we go too far down this road. Myself.
I like that idea. And so my question, Charlie, to you, so how many lots, 80 lots did you say?
88, right?
88 is the potential for that.
So so that's 15,000 square foot. You took the standard acreage divided by 15,000.
Gross divided by 15. Mhm.
Okay, so again, part of our ordinance says, okay, what do we get in exchange? So tell me what we got in exchange for that 15,000. You know, I see a partial trail here. I get concerned about connectivity again, about access, like we've seen. So tell me what the county gets out of this.
Do you want to go over the benefits?
Yes, there are numerous benefits in this case. I mean, you do have some pathway alignments that do follow the general plan. You have a road system and you also have the staff's recommendation that there be a connection through here. And so this would be a 66-foot right of way, a neighborhood collector and a 10-foot pathway on the south side. And then as far as what the county commission also recommended, Mr. Chair Favero recommended that there be asphalt and pathway improvements that extend to 900 South Street, basically from this point of this northern line here, down connecting to 900 South. And then also you have Riverbend Cluster Subdivision Road, the road that comes into here. So the developer would be making asphalt improvements following this 3600 west and all the way to that northern line to the Riverbend Cluster Subdivision. So those are some of the off-site improvements. As far as what would be contribution to the open space, you know, River County's Parks District, there would be a contribution there as well. And that's significant. We also have quite a few public things that will help enhance this development written into the development agreement. So things like the smart development requirements as far as water conservation measures, just construction standards. We also have the street trees that are part of this. Street trees within the pathway corridors. Can you think of that? Did I cover everything?
Yeah, so I think the biggest give is gonna be the open space donation, which they've committed to 75, right?
Yes.
7,500 per front door. Frankly, I do think some of that money should and can be used towards offsite trail improvements. I think that's just as much an open space and recreation benefit as just putting it into the parks. The other thing, because of the odd shape of the property, we wanted to make sure that they weren't just planning for boundaries in, they were thinking about the neighbors.
Yeah.
And so one of the original versions we got didn't quite have all the stubs into the north, south, east, west parcels. You can see all the different colors indicating property boundaries on that aerial. The intention here is you'll see some pretty decent street blocks in time. It's just gonna take some effort and neighboring landowners choosing to develop as well. That was a little bit of a concern from the planning commission because it was kind of an odd shaped lot, but they looked at how these guys really worked hard to try and make sure they had those good block connections, and it's just a matter of the neighbors choosing to develop if they choose to do so.
Commissioner Harden?
There's a lot of good in this subdivision as well. There's a few things like that have already been mentioned with trail connectivity and some of those other things that I have concerns. The first thing that came to my mind was that Hooper Canal. I mean, before I started looking at everything else, it was that Hooper Canal. Wondering if that was a road or what was that divided that up, and so. That's my only, I think that's a big thing. I think what we've talked about already is good.
Great.
Any questions?
I do have
Yeah.
a question. So before we move any further on this, everything needs to be resolved with the canal.
I think so,
And
and
then-
even if it's a contingency plan.
Okay.
I mean, we'll hope that we can get a trail along the canal, but. Yeah, I don't wanna go too far without knowing that.
Fair, totally understand. And then would you like that brought back in the form of a work session once we get to that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'm sure we'll go to the planning commission too, right? Because they're gonna be part of that solution.
Yeah.
Just, and an idea too, not just that follows the canal. But just for everybody, some people in the room know, but most people don't. Our canal, our pathway for active transportation is really important.
Mhm.
The Golden Spoke is it's the second largest contiguous trail in the United States behind one in Minnesota that goes from Ogden Canyon all the way down to Provo Canyon. So these trails, connectivity for, again, the grandkids of our grandkids, that they can all connect. If you want to get on a bike and be able to ride to Provo Canyon from out here, you gotta be able to do it. Or at least to the mouth of Ogden Canyon eventually. So that's why it's such a big deal. It is for me, and I'm the most active in the road. You can't see.
Can we show you what our plan B looks like?
It's up to
Has the planning commission seen that?
I think we've talked to him about it, but
I mean, we're out of time, so, maybe it's something we should bring back. We're just really back to back today.
Are we not getting present what we? Get the conclusion of what our work session was?
Has the planning commission seen that?
Well, what they've seen is this plan, and like I said, we did discuss in great detail options for pathway alignment along that Hooper side. And I think that's, we looked at different possibilities, possibly using the fact that this is already gonna have a 10-foot pathway on the south side, that there could be pedestrian access up through here, or even through here, connecting with this, going straight down. So, I mean, there are alternatives for pedestrians. If we're unable to acquire this route on that Hooper easement. So if that's any consolation, but that's kind of where the discussion went. So I think the planning commission is aware that there are options.
But their recommendation was for the one that we're looking at right now.
Their recommendation was to approve this with that, the exact language was, a trail on the south side of that, oh, here it is. Let me read you the exact language here. It says. With the addition, so. The second standard in their recommendation says the proposed street and pathway layout illustrated in the concept plan is sufficient to meet the connectivity standards of the county code. With the addition of a trail along the southernmost boundary of the subdivision adjacent to the Hooper Canal system, connecting to 4100 west. Adjacent to the Hooper Canal.
Yeah, so I got it wrong. They didn't say put it in the Hooper Canal property. They said, so that was actually the plan B. Plan A was put it on the canal. Plan B was if you can't get it on the canal, get it right next to it.
That's what we have here is what they asked us to
Is it next to it?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is.
We've got, this is a trail here. And then it goes down here, and it ties back into, right, instead of.
Is this on their easement?
No, this is on our property,
Okay,
so they can't stop us from putting the trail here. So we have a 10-foot trail coming down here, and then we're putting a 10-foot trail all the way down here. So we're tying that.
sorry.
but we're actually tying the trail system. So this is the trail here. This is the Hooper Canal, but I own it, so they can't stop me from putting a trail on it. Then I'm gonna come across here and come through here with a 10-foot trail coming all the way down here and then coming all the way down. I'm tying into here. So the trail system's there. It's just not right here, but it's right here. If But if we can't, it just comes right here. And that ties the trail system in there.
Is there a reason, Pat, you put it in the cul-de-sac?
And not to
over
the
here?
side, that's my
Oh,
question.
cause this detention basin, that's.
That's okay, if you go around there.
We could do that. It does coming here or well, either way, it does not matter to me. We can do it either way.
I don't know.
But that's what we understood from what they were asking was adjacent to the trail. So we'll gladly make it there too. That's not bad.
So they have their plan B. Well, I don't know. I just struggle with the split decision. I don't feel like the planning commission is really comfortable with it.
Was split decision because of the trail, whether we wanted or not.
Well, the
Is there
split,
people who didn't go for it did not want the trail?
No, they wanted that all in the right of way easement, the Hooper Canal easement.
No, the ones that said no did not want the trail. I talked to them.
At all?
They were fine with what we had presented. They were not in favor of that. The one, Bryn and the chair and
is it Wicker?
Uncle Jed and Wayne, they were all in favor of what Bryn was asking. The others said, no, we don't care. We're not gonna force them to put it on somebody else's property. We just want the trail system they're already putting in down the main road. That's what they had said.
We do have Bren online, but we may not have time. So if you'd like us to come back, I want to be respectful of you.
Yeah, well,
We do round two another time.
we probably should, so I don't wanna rush this and Commissioner Frower stepped out. Yeah, I do want a round two. I'm just debating whether or not I want you to take it back to the planning commission. I just would like to, I would like to know more about the dissenters.
Yeah, we can come back with more information for you on
Okay.
the dissenters
Okay,
and have more of a discussion another time.
I'd like that. I'd just like to be more clear when it's this close.
For sure. Yeah, we totally want to be respectful of your time and thank you for giving us as much time as you did.
okay, okay, thank you. Children. I don't know if Commissioner Frower is, but we'll change out the room. Okay, we're on item 7, discussion regarding Kiesel jail chiller, or I don't see Bryce, is Bryce coming? Is Bryce coming? He's finding out.
Yep.
We'll be
done. I'll put you on speaker.
All right, Bill Ross, John Wilkinson, Scott Park, and Bryce Taylor via cell phone.
water leak at the transfer stations.
Does that mean that you'll be taking this discussion or?
I don't know anything about it. That's why I
Oh.
was, that's why I was calling Bryce, because I was in St. George. So.
We can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I'm just coming across the viaduct, so I'll be there in a couple minutes, but, this is about that Kiesel chiller that we issued the PO for last year, and then there was a conversation of canceling the PO to put in Kiesel gel. So I talked to Utah Engineering, they will not take the chiller, it's just an odd size that they don't want to keep on hand. So for us to buy it, for it not to be installed, for us just to own the chiller, it was 74,000 from the original, just to buy it.
And what was the budget for buying it and installing it?
I can't remember what the original PO.
149,000.
149.
Yeah.
So we're about half.
Half essentially, yep.
What are we gonna do with that chiller?
It's a good question because, it's a smaller chiller, it's a 50-ton unit compared, like the Weaver Center has a 200-ton unit. So it's made for a smaller building. And it has to be a closed loop chilled water system, which are kind of an odd, kind of an old version of cooling compared to everything that's a new version of, like, like mini splits and regular air conditioning and that kind of stuff, just an older style of cooling.
Can we use it somewhere?
So I asked Ryan Neal, our HVAC guy, what we could use it for anywhere, and he didn't think of any buildings that we had right offhand that we could use it at. The animal shelter doesn't have the right system. Eccles system is the same type of system, but it's not big enough. The road department doesn't have the right system.
What about the libraries?
What about the libraries, Bryce?
I don't know for sure about the libraries. I haven't been in them enough to know what they.
Likely Linda would spec exactly down to the gnat's eyelash what she wants and nothing.
That is a possibility.
Here's the thing, commissioners, we own a chiller and
Yeah.
it was our error to approve this in the budget. Knowing that we don't wanna invest in this facility, but I don't wanna spend another 70 plus to install it. If we're not gonna be using that building.
We have a closed session coming up where we can further discuss.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, that was gonna be my question, was that if we kept we own the chiller,
Yep.
Mhm.
so that's a done deal, I guess. But we've talked about offloading the facility, of which I'm assuming will come on that closed session.
correct.
That there's a possibility that that could be made as part of that transaction if we end up going that road.
Yes.
Okay, well, we can
So-
save the rest of that for the closed session,
So,
but Bryce,
yeah.
thanks for the update. It sounds like we own the chiller and that was the whole point of this work session is to tell us that.
Commissioners, if I
We gotta
may,
pay him.
we
We
did,
have to pay.
we chose to cancel the PO and we canceled the full amount, so I didn't roll over anything from last year's budget, so they would be $75,000 short or whatever that amount Bryce said was to pay for it, because at the time, so.
Very
Yeah,
good.
oh, yes. So, if you're okay with what I'll do is I'll just enter a budget change.
Yeah, we'll have to.
To do that. Well, it'll come out of capital projects, so we won't hit anybody's, specific budget.
Yeah, we'll have to.
We got to, so answer me a question. So we canceled the PO. But they didn't receive word.
So it was a 2024 PO. They had already ordered the chiller by the time
Yes,
we canceled it.
Who ordered it?
we did. So we issued the PO to Utah Engineering
Okay,
to order it, and there's just a delay on that type of equipment. So it was ordered and processed from the manufacturer by the time we decided to cancel.
okay, all right. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Okay,
You'll see
well,
that in Kiesel this afternoon.
Okay.
after.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry,
Thanks for running over here.
we've been.
You're dismissed.
Transfer station.
All right.
So it's, I can check with the library, I can give Robert Armstrong and see if it's even a possibility for them. I'm guessing, my guess is it's too small for them too.
Yeah.
That's my hunch.
All right, well, we may have some more discussion in a closed session that we have later on our agenda, so.
So, yeah,
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
okay.
You can send in the next troops,
Right.
those of you who are leaving.
Yes.
There's his number.
You stand for this one, Sean? or do you-
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, this is the.
Let's keep all them off and off.
No, thanks. Here. Yeah, I'm.
Good afternoon.
Did you say good morning?
Is it?
It'll be better.
No, it's not.
Hi, Lisa.
How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Good.
We know you mean business when you're wearing your glasses.
Yes, it's a high on my list of things to do.
responding to you?
I've got.
The wind's still blowing out there?
Oh.
That was me leaving. All right, we'll get started here. Wow, we got caught up. Commissioners. Item 8 on our agenda is discussion regarding emergency management department, Lisa Gosline, Sheriff Ryan Arbons, Julie Stoddard. A lot of this discussion, and we only have a half an hour, so we'll get done what we can. We may follow up with another work session. And we have one later this afternoon, the 4 of us. But let's start with Julie and Scott and tell us about your conversations that you've had to this point about this transfer.
Well, I actually put together a list. I divided it into 2 groups, the accounting duties that need to be transitioned, and then all of the other things that we've come up with as an executive staff. So Scott and I just talked about, putting together some training for, Lisa and her staff. And I apologize, I had to pull Christina today, but we'll get it scheduled. So it's really about access and first, and then, Christina's putting together a whole book of instruction.
Okay.
To help her transition. We'll have to do some budget changes, based on revenues and expenses, or we're billing back and forth, but, we'll just deal with those, I guess, as we come across them.
Yeah, I think the best thing to do for now is just track those interdepartmentals and then we'll make a budget adjustment towards the end of the year, because I just don't know what to adjust it for right now. I don't know how much
Yeah.
the sheriff's office uses of emergency
Right.
management or vice versa.
And the same thing goes for, you and I talked last week about Marty's division and Sean,
Mhm.
which I don't think it has ever been pulled out to my knowledge. So
Yeah.
that's something that we should start probably at the calendar/budget year. But having no data for that is from your office or those divisions, it's probably best to just track that from here on out. That will give us 7 months of data.
Yeah.
And then we can do that. I did have a question with Scott about the interdepartmental billing or lack thereof for emergency management. It just hasn't been done, and it should be.
Well, I mean, she's billed like the roads department, for example, or so there's been some, but there hasn't been like, okay, bill back and forth between the sheriff's office for use of
Yeah.
equipment has all been under the sheriff, so.
Right,
Did,
so
Even the roads is billed her.
yes,
we'll just build her, and most of that's, I think,
Where's
been
the
covered by
flooding?
grant, and has been covered by grants, is my
That was
assumption.
during probably 2023
Yeah.
during the response to the
Yeah, it
flood.
was during the floods. We just worked directly
Yeah.
with the roads to figure
Yeah,
that out.
Right.
I mean, we've never done any kind of interdepartmental
Right.
between like enforcement and corrections or enforcement and CSI. So, I mean, those that are under our umbrella, we just,
Sure,
sure, that's just we
They've all
all
been
work together,
resolved, yeah. Yep, I get it.
but we do the allocation between the corrections and the enforcement. To allocate once a year, that's what, $600,000 or $700,000 of staff time, so we do that adjustment.
Yeah, that's just the support staff though.
Yeah, yeah,
mean,
but you're
like-
right, we don't bill back and forth for
Right,
equipment or things like
yeah.
that.
Okay. All right, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, that's all I had is, it's just, the list is a lot bigger than I had thought of originally. I mean, there's a lot of things to get worked out. So,
Okay. Have you spent some time already in training with Lisa?
No, in fact, Christina was gonna start today
Okay,
and I had to pull her off for another project, so we have not started that.
okay,
So we'll keep doing it
Great.
until everything's transitioned, so no problem there.
Scott.
I worry about whether or not they have the bandwidth for this. I mean, there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that they
there
have
is.
to learn and they're not gonna do it very often. And
It's a fair question.
Mhm.
it's gonna be. I don't know. We're equipped for it, but. I'm not sure they are, which is three of them.
For the things that are on the first part of this list we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they'll have the help from our office too.
Okay.
So. Scott, what about approvals? Update me on approvals.
So we've adjusted the approvals in units. We've created emergency management as one separate division and adjusted all those workflows. So Eli and Valerie will have the ability to enter, Lisa will have the ability to approve. For the purchasing cards, Lisa will approve Eli and Valerie's P cards, and then Lisa's will be approved by Stacy Skeen in the commission office. You've been approving time forever, so there's really no change there. If you ever have an action where you need to change somebody's wage or salary, just reach out to Steph. That's what we do for most of the departments that don't have a large volume. Same thing with accounts payable. If you ever have a question on something like that, you can reach out to Caitlin in our office and she can help enter an invoice or answer questions. We did talk about getting you added onto the Amazon account. I sent a request off to purchasing for that. I haven't heard back yet if they've added you or not. And then we thought for now, since we really just don't have an idea of how much to add to the budget, we would just ask the sheriff's office to track the time and equipment that's going back and forth, and we'll just have to make a budget adjustment towards the end of the year to track that. I could guess right now, but is $10,000, is it $100,000? I just don't have any reasonable idea. So instead of just guessing, why don't we just watch it for a little while and then have some real numbers to base this off of.
So Scott, let me ask you this, if we start tracking now, May-ish, I mean, we're halfway through, but if we start, I guess June would give us 7 months. But we'll be in our budget, work meetings later in the fall. Will that give me this question for both of you, will that give us enough of an idea? I'm looking at, I guess, maybe 4 or 5 months at least to do budget projections?
The biggest stretch through the summer months where we're doing all kinds of activities is gonna be really the big telling thing. I mean, this month is gonna be big, right?
Yeah, the next few months with the events.
So
So
yeah,
that should give us some good data.
it should give us some good data.
I'm
I can
talking
go
more
back
about-
and look historically. I just don't know how careful like the logistics team has been about recording their time when they're working with emergency management.
My
as
guess
opposed
is they
to-
haven't. I mean, because it's been
They
under one.
said that when they put in their time, they put Homeland
Oh,
Security.
okay.
No, actually, they don't.
They don't.
No.
So if they start doing that, then I think by the time we start.
I mean, they
cutting
put it in
budget,
an
we'll
activity
have
code, but they
at
don't,
least
they can't
some
change
data.
their department.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's low risk because what's gonna happen is the sheriff's
Yeah.
office has the budget in their department already to pay their employees, so then they're gonna turn and they're gonna bill that time to emergency
Mhm.
management, so they'll have a revenue.
Mhm.
We'll also have an expense in emergency management that matches, and so
Net zero.
the revenue and expense is a net zero, so if we're wrong, we can always go back and adjust the budget up and say, okay, well, we need to pay the sheriff's office more money for these services. But it's a net zero in terms of
Mhm.
total additional expenditures.
Following that?
Yeah,
Following?
makes sense.
I'm right there.
Okay, I'm an accountant, so I thought I'd double check.
Sometimes us accountants get talking.
We're all like, mhm, mhm.
Yeah, we're nodding along, yeah.
Okay. Okay. One note, okay.
So I did reach out to all of the logistics team and said, this is the activity I need you to use. And then we'll run reports at the end of the month and see how much we've got for May and start tracking that stuff.
Okay, so as far as the other two divisions, Scott, can you get with Sean? Or whoever on his team and Marty? And they should start using those codes too?
Yeah, for whatever they're doing, that's direct
Whatever
for
they're doing.
emergency management, yeah.
Yeah,
And just to be clear, we're moving paramedic as well.
That was my understanding as well.
Question mark?
yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah.
So there's quite a bit more invoices, accounts payable invoices for paramedic than there are for Homeland, yeah.
Okay.
So, and part of the problem is they're just not gonna get them very often.
Mhm.
So they're gonna get a blizzard and then nothing. it's really tough to learn how to do it when you're not doing it every day, but are you concerned at all about the volume of work?
I don't think so. I think if your staff can help or
Yeah.
whoever
Yeah.
normally does those, if we have question or issue, then I'm sure that they would help us.
We do that for several departments that are mostly payroll. and
Yeah, right,
a lot- they
right.
Once a year get 7 or 8 invoices that they,
Yeah.
you know, so we help them out.
I was gonna say, I know there are other departments that are at that.
I'm glad to know about that because after all these years, I've wondered how paramedics worked on that. That's, I mean, even 3 decades. But I seem to be talking to Mike Matthew and that quite frequently on those negotiations all the time. And so I've always felt like the point person. So it just sounds like the invoicing now. So that makes, I mean, I felt like I've been on point with paramedics for 9 years. So it's interesting.
Well, we moved their budget under.
That's budget, but I'm talking about negotiation of contracts with cities and how we added the 4th service and response times and the setting up for the Eli's help. You were very much involved in that with when we added the 4th one up in the North Ogden area, so. Yeah. Eli's done a lot of the work. But a lot of the work. But how that other thing goes, so. Thank you.
Okay. Does that cover what you guys have already talked about?
I think on the administrative side.
Okay. All right, so other items to be resolved. Thanks for bringing this. All written out, ready to go. Let's work through this and we'll do what we have time for, and then Sheriff will circle back if we need to. So, go ahead.
So this is a list that we've compiled to date. It's not all of the issues that we have. We reached out to other emergency managers, sheriffs across the state, talked with staff here. These are just some of the challenges that will be made. They're not resolved. They're something that will take time. If we get to that point. So we just put a list. We just talked about paramedics. I would probably lean on Liam to help us understand this, but Title 17, Section 22 says it's the sheriff's responsibility for emergency medical responders. And so it's just, and to be clear on this list, these are just things that we need to resolve. We just brought them to the attention that we're gonna have to go through them. So, and there's the other list. You got the Weaver County Sheriff's Areas Communication Team. That's an auxiliary of the sheriff, which has commonly been under Lisa, but bears our badge and patch. The very bottom.
That's the bottom two.
Yeah, I mean, we could go through the whole list. It's all there. I don't know if we can solve much of it today. It needs work. It needs sitting down, longer meetings to resolve this. And so, but this is the list that we've compiled so far.
So tell me about Title 22 with the paramedics. Do you see a change there because of this? I mean, I know we got the accounting side that we need.
Well, it's not the accounting, it's
So
who's responsible over it.
Okay.
Right, and so the way it has been with emergency management, a lot of the services that are provided come from an authority under the sheriff. Through, under our umbrella, and so when you separate it, there's questions of who gets what, who has the authority statutorily. We're just saying there's stuff we're not sure about. This is one that was shared with me from another emergency manager. And so we just put it down to say, hey, this is what we need to work through.
So that's a legal question.
So we just need to check that.
Yeah, this is one of them, yes.
Yeah. We got some good code checkers around here.
Okay. I'm kind of jumping around here now. Starlink accounts.
Yeah, right now, Mark Horton has 2 that he's paying for in his P card, but 1 is getting charged to Homeland Security. And I
One of
know
the
that.
units we paid for.
What's that?
We paid for one of the units that DeMarca has.
Yeah,
then we paid for
and so
the
there's
fee on it.
there's some commingling going on, and I'm not sure where to draw that line.
So we have 2 units and 2 subscriptions. So
But we have
is it a subscription?
3.
He has a couple of minis too, so
Yeah.
he has at least 3 other ones. And then the thought with the market was that we would have a Starlink out and about with enforcement in case we had an incident go down. So that gives some connectivity to someone in law enforcement besides just at the sheriff's office or over in the warehouse, because we have some units over there as well. So the thought was just that's something that's out and about and can be used for incidents and.
But some of it is
connectivity.
paid for by your grants, right?
Yes,
So, I mean, it gets a little weird
those
with
2 are.
some of the equipment and.
That subscription is not, because I cannot use grant funding for anything that is connected to drones.
So what is the
Really
reason
at
why?
all?
No,
Mm.
anything that connects up to a drone cannot be, can't use grant funding for. So that's why we have the DeMarca one, is so that we've got, if he needed to hook it up, then we've got it out there and about in the field. That was the
But it's
main,
considered emergency management.
yeah, it's just.
Okay.
Okay.
So when this was created years ago, there's one of the concerns that a lot of this was built to mingle with equipment and resources. And so this is what makes it a challenge. A lot of our grants ride on each other. And I have responsibility over some things where Lisa may have responsibility. And so this has been built over years and years and years. And it's been a challenge to sort this out in 2 days. That's the challenge.
Okay, so Lisa, on the Starlink, what exactly can be funded with grants? 1 unit?
I
and one
can use all my
subscription?
other Starlinks. Those are all funded with grant funding. So all of those are there. The only one that we don't use the grant for is for that one that's out and about in the field that might be linked up to a drone.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, could we just have emergency management pay for all Starlink and then bill the sheriff's
Yeah.
office for their 1 unit? Or is that easier, or, I mean, it doesn't matter to me, however, but I just think we make that decision, okay,
Yeah.
this bill will be paid for by emergency management, this bill will be paid for by the sheriff's office, and we'll figure out.
Yeah. I think so. And then if we need to move money around in budgets, we'll do
Yeah.
that. Okay. That sounds like a plan. Okay,
Let's talk about that one further,
okay,
because like there's a need in it with search and rescue. Let me talk to Lieutenant Horton about that one and see if we just want to pay for that one.
because he uses it for search and rescue too.
Yes.
Okay.
And that, some of this struggle we've had is, there are a lot of things that aren't clear cut one or the
Sure.
other.
But when it comes to grants, they really should be, right?
The issue with
No, we weren't.
the grant, as far as the drone program, is it's actually a grant guidance prohibition that forbids the use of federal grant funding to be employed as part of the use connecting to a Chinese-made drone. Sheriff's Office flies the DJI drone, so it's not necessarily drones in general.
Gotcha.
It's the equipment that signal is being transmitted over cannot be paid for with grant funding because it's using a DJI drone.
And DJI is a Chinese.
Is a Chinese drone company.
But just because it's paid for by a Homeland Security grant doesn't mean it's exclusively for them. I mean, because obviously the sheriff's office has emergency management duties.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's the struggle.
Okay,
And so the Starlink that Deputy Lamarga uses in his patrol vehicle for the purpose of sending that drone footage is being paid for out of our in-house budget, not out of SHSP or EMPG grant funds.
gotcha.
Yes, and I did agree with that because I felt like that was an important asset to have out there in the field with our law enforcement.
For sure.
And so I did not have any heartburn with paying that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, as long as we're, yeah. I mean, you guys understand. As long as we're using grant money for what we have to do. That's required. Let's see. There's another one, Sheriff's Foundation funds. Emergency management insert.
It's a fundraising arm that we have, 501c3. where this severance, will no longer be under that fund that we collect.
So is there a place we could
Yes,
send that money?
Okay, explain the foundation to me. It's not part of the sheriff's office.
But it's
It is?
chartered as, supporting the sheriff's office. I can send you the documents.
No, I don't wanna see that. I just want you to give me the layman's
It's the
explanation.
Egyptian Theater Foundation equivalent, so it's not a county.
So it's completely separate from the sheriff's office.
Separate legal entity from the
It has to
county.
go towards the sheriffs.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
But I handle the books.
Right.
Oh, you do?
That's part of my duties.
So with that, Scott, we have that other, sorry, Madam Chair. We have the,
Community Foundation.
yes.
you could create that under yours.
So, say, yeah, the community foundation that'd be a good place to put that.
Yeah, we would just create another account
Earmark,
under that one.
earmark that, we've got that done.
Yeah, we're using it already for the cold case homicide task force. We're using it for OACC. We're using it for animal shelter. We were using it for lots of things. We could just add this as another.
Okay. So you could just let me know
That's easy.
where I can just write a check and.
Yeah,
I just wanna make sure that doesn't affect the fundraising, because the foundation does a lot of fundraising.
Right, but we fundraise for the sheriff's office. and
Right,
Kristen's very much involved in that as well.
Yeah, we,
but that's part of your job duties.
Our golf tournament that we do every year is the
Right.
primary fundraising opportunity for that.
Does the foundation pay at all for the services that we provide? Does the foundation reimburse for your services?
No.
Should it?
that's a
I don't know.
separate question. I would say
don't know.
probably beyond the scope of this
Yeah.
meeting. So
Okay.
in other areas where we were so intermingled, like at the health department, actually recommended that we split up because the health department employees were so intertwined that to make the health department responsible, but they weren't under the direction of Brian Cowan. They were under the direction of a different board. So we'd want to, I mean, if we go down this road, I'd say we'd look at the Sheriff's Office Foundation, how it's set up and decide whether we're comfortable where it's at, if you want to bring it in closer,
Okay.
or however you want to do it.
That can be a
Leave it the
separate.
way it is now,
Yeah.
or how that, so does that have any risk of having an adverse audit?
So it's not subject to our audits. So I don't have the access to the books. They're not in the county's accounting system. And so they're not audited by our auditors. Now, I don't know if the Sheriff's Office Foundation has a different person who reviews your books, but
When's the last time you had that audited? I'm looking up.
We don't have it audited, but there has been a CPA that reviews.
Okay, so you have a review,
Absolutely.
but I,
Royce Richards' place that does our CPA.
yeah, I just wanna make sure now that everybody, including everybody who might participate on the golf, could never be probably be accused of something nefarious
Yeah.
by nature, just.
Yeah, I think the board is pretty keen to that and making sure that things are on the up and up. We're actually, the CPA we were using has retired, so we're actually trying to find.
Yeah.
CPA, but we're talking about just an annual review,
Okay.
not really an audit, but just.
Look, no good deed goes unpunished, and I'd hate to see all that good work.
There's probably some federal regulations under a foundation.
Yeah, you guys.
Make sure that we're abiding to.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we're certainly abiding to all that.
Yeah.
But that's
As a
not. the
501c3.
county's bill.
So
Well,
the county
have
would
an
make
auditor
it
tell you
responsible.
that.
So we would say foundation's board needs to make sure they file the 99.
Right.
Yeah,
IRS and all that.
I don't sit on one foundation or one board or one district that's not done an audit at least every 3 years, sometimes every other year, with a review on those opposite years. So if you've just been getting a review,
The problem is we're small.
I saw a lot of things. I'm just
And
trying to
it would,
keep you
it would
careful.
take up a lot of the funds
Yeah.
to try to like charge for Kristen and I's time to charge for an audit
I'm not
annually.
talking about that. I'm just having an audit, a official audit done, not just a review. That's all.
That's up to the board.
Yeah, that's up to the board. Sorry, I distracted myself. My real question was, and we don't have to loop it through the county's foundation. But if we start going down that road, is that gonna impact donations? Cause I don't wanna do that, because I feel like you guys get a lot of donations, you know what I mean? People know they're donating to the sheriff's foundation. They know it's going to law enforcement.
They usually
And I think-
know what the money's for.
Yeah, it's usually.
Canine, the
Right.
sheriff and all that.
So before we entertain making that switch to the county's foundation, I wanna make sure that that doesn't impact your donors to where they're saying, well, how come this isn't, where's it going? now?"
We'll put
You
a
know what I mean?
notice out.
Yeah, if it's
Yes.
gonna impact that negatively, then I don't think we wanna do that.
But they're no longer an arm of our
Yeah,
office, so we
so
can
we're-
keep them under the foundation.
Yeah, we'll cut it and we can announce it that those funds will not be going to emergency management. So Steve Thon,
Yeah, yeah.
who are the rest? They're on the board.
Ron.
Okay.
You just
You're
cut
just
out the
talking,
emergency.
you're just
Yeah,
talking about the
yes.
emergency
That's-
management
yeah.
cert. I'm
Right,
going,
the funds
I
that
thought we were
are
talking about foundation,
specific
like,
to emergency
No, the
management.
foundation has been running for a very long
Yeah.
time. It's.
I thought we were talking about cycling all those donations.
No,
Make it
just,
feel a
just
lot better.
removing those funds from among.
Perfect.
That's an
Okay.
easy deal.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, that makes, wow, I was a little concerned. Okay. Yeah, thanks for that clarification. Let's see.
The background investigations could be a big one.
Can we tell I'm trying to do the easy ones first?
I'm sorry.
Quarter, sorry,
I'll keep
No,
my
no.
mouth shut.
travel scheduling and reporting.
That's just forms. That shouldn't be that difficult.
You typically do the scheduling, Julie?
I
do
do
you
all the
do?
travel booking and all the post-travel processing.
It's not simple.
So that.
It's a bit
I
of a
did
process,
my
yeah.
employment.
Oh, you did?
Mhm.
Okay, Stacy does it in our office, so. Okay,
So we would normally say if she works for you to have her work through Stacy, but also Caitlin can help. We do that for another couple of small departments as well.
okay. Awesome. Quartermaster items for employees and volunteers.
Shirts, jackets, patches, all that stuff. Will no longer be under the sheriff's office. And that'll something that, buying, purchasing. Someone else would probably be doing that. I don't know who that would be.
Does it go, how many volunteers are we talking about?
Well, I have all of the Aries team members, most of their, stuff I've been able to pay for with the grant because they're called in to work in, our ELC or mobile command, and therefore that is allowable. It's not allowable for, Eli or I or Val to do our uniforms under a grant, but those other things are allowed.
How many volunteers are in CERT?
In CERT, we only really have a CERT council, because the cities maintain their own volunteers. And so you're looking at probably like 15 or so. But as far as, and that doesn't even include all of this, this CERT council, a lot of them just belong to their city, so it's not a lot. And then as far as the Aries, there's about 30 to 50. We just bought them new shirts with the grant and all of that, so we did do patches. I don't know if we're gonna have to do those again or not, but those are all done.
Okay, so that would be something I'm assuming that we would continue to do till the end of the year and then track that, make a budget amendment at the end of the year.
Yeah, let's say if the sheriff's office wants, I mean, it doesn't matter to me if the sheriff's already putting in an order and they add the 50 extra shirts and then bill.
No, all of our stuff goes through SCAGs, so it's kind of a different deal.
So we haven't used them.
If you've already
We
been separate, then yeah, it
purchased
doesn't
ours
matter.
separate,
That
It's already
makes
been
sense to
separate?
keep it separate.
Oh, okay.
So
Yep.
what were you saying about the badge for the Aries?
Patches and badges.
Badges.
Those things need to be, if they say Weaver County Sheriff's Office or something like that, it can't be on there anymore.
We changed the patches. They do say we were county sheriff office around the edge, so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I believe
Well,
you
it shouldn't
would
really
also
be a
have to
badge,
change
should
the
it?
charter. for
Well,
that
I'm just
group.
saying if they're all patches, so forth.
Explain that.
Possibly.
Popping in my mind, the charter for the group that organizes that group. The original charter was done probably back in the 80s, and I believe the charter actually, that the organization is chartered as a volunteer organization of the Weaver County Sheriff's Office.
In the 80s?
I think it was Sam that probably put it together.
It would have been Brad in 80.
So,
Yeah,
So it would have been under the commission at the time.
it would have been under the commission then. It would have been Sam was under the commission. That's when this whole
That
thing.
was my impression from Lance, so I can reach out and ask. Is that it was not under sheriff's office. It was under
Yeah,
emergency
because-
management.
Decades, it was decades under the commission. This whole thing was decades.
I'm just speaking from my
We
time.
need to check the charter.
Okay.
Yeah, but that would be something just to look at is the chart within that group.
Okay. Okay. Is that it under quartermaster?
That one?
Is that it under quartermaster? Okay. Office location. I think you, for now, the location remains out there at the
I think
complex.
you need to go to that top bullet point. If you're talking office location,
Jetpacks?
no.
Access to secure facility.
Oh,
So, the executive staff here, along with, Eli, we talked about a lot of this and we want to make it very clear that we don't want this to happen. There's so many things that's going on here that it's gonna take a long time to get through. This thing was built for us to be together. We do not support the process that this is going through, for a number of reasons. And if this is a split, which we're not in favor, we want this to work, we support it as the way it was. But because of a lot of these issues, the group decided it'd be best for Lisa to move to another facility. Because of the situations with access, we have, coming in and out of us, like you guys do not have access to our facilities. But we grant it in, when you're escorted and so forth. Commissioner Bowles has a card that gets in our doors, but it's a limited access and we assume that she comes and visits us. But there's, this group feels like that would be the best, for many of these reasons.
So you're talking office space?
Yes, just to her space. The equipment can stay and all that. But because of those things that the group felt that it would be best if we do make this split, that Lisa should be removed from the sheriff's office facilities.
you're talking about, when you say Lisa, you're talking about EMS.
Yes, yes,
I
yes,
just wanted to make not
yes.
personal.
And it's not personal at all. It's just with all of this.
You're
There,
talking about the sheriff's over there in the sheriff's, no, you're not talking about the
office.
storage.
His office.
You're not talking about the storage area.
well, that's the part of that we need to further discuss, but we're talking about the main facility, but also there's a lot of key card access in and out of, the work. So when our facility was built, the shed, the storage facility, it was built with many purposes. And a lot of it was to have access to our facility, hence under the umbrella of the sheriff, where the responsibility lies upon with all this. I mean, we all work, so, I have, Laylee and Guard who have been in search and rescue before. There's just a lot of intricate mingling of equipment, resources and staff. And so with that, we just feel that would be the best move.
The problem is the storage area and why I think the equipment bears further discussion. The storage area is behind the secure fence
Yes.
in the secure facility.
Is that storage area, secure emergency management equipment?
Yes.
Yes.
That's correct.
But we can allow the access to go in there, but as far as the jail facility and so forth, because there's needs for printing and repairs and IT and all that stuff will be different as well. So I'm just saying, those are the things that we feel is best, but yet we're here to discuss what that would look like. But again, we don't want this to happen.
I think also there's an accountability with that. It makes more sense to have, if they're not falling into the sheriff's office, that their offices not be located in our facility because we don't have any authority over that emergency management anymore. It makes sense to move them to where they're accountable to who oversees them and all of that. And then, like I said, I think there's further discussion on the equipment and the storage and how that looks. We can limit access if they move offices, we can limit access through that one secure gate back to that storage facility so they can get in there, but they wouldn't be living inside of that secure facility.
Well, actually, so when I first came into commission 7+ years ago, Lance Peterson reported to me as emergency management. He had an office on the rear side of the sheriff's office building, the infrastructure out there.
Yes,
And that didn't seem to create a problem for Lance or,
it's because he was under the sheriff's office. So when I first got here, Lance explained, sorry if I cut you
Yeah,
off, Gage,
go ahead.
but there's a straight line to the sheriff and then there's a dotted line to the commission. And it's always been like that since I've been here. It hasn't changed. And so Lance would periodically ask you or meet with you because at that time you are the liaison over the sheriff's office, right?
well, that's true, but I thought it was a direct line.
No, it's always been the dotted, and it's because the way it was explained to me, that the dotted is the financial and approval. The straight line was the authority that grants, that's why we get a lot of our staff out there to help. We, with the mostly the corrections to operate all the heavy equipment, whatever's needed. And so I talked to Lance too, and he says since it's been here, it's always been the dotted line, and there's been many times where he has met with you, and there's many times that you haven't, but it's always been available to meet with commission at any time.
Okay. That's not, I need to double check. That's not quite how I understood it.
Right, but Lance said he's available if you wanted to ask him about that.
Yeah, I don't probably need to talk to Lance, but.
Yeah.
But he was the original person that came to me for permission for expansion of what is now the storage facility.
So he started out with a 50 by 300 foot
Right.
plan, and
Right.
when he brought us into it, we wanted those other additions to be made.
Correct,
Yeah.
but it started out.
It did. It
Started out with emergency management for storage of emergency management equipment. That's where that whole
Yes,
building came from.
that's what that's what generated.
Right, and then it expanded from
Yeah.
there from a
Search and
400 or
rescue.
500,000 project into $1.5 million project.
Well, it was 1.67, ended up being 2.2.
Yeah, okay. Well, I try to remember those bad numbers.
Yeah. I can give you a little more history. When the emergency management first came to Weber County, it was under the commission office. It was, Brad Gee was the first emergency manager. And it probably was even in the late 70s when that took place. Over the years, Brad Gee was then moved over to HR, and a guy by the name of Sam Vanderhyde took that, and he reported directly to the commission. When Sam retired, or upon his retirement or move under to the attorney's office, Joe Ritchie didn't get elected. Joe Ritchie was a former commissioner here, and for whatever reason, he came in. Lance was working there, by the way, at the time. Joe Ritchie came in. And then it was at that time that under Joe Ritchie, or when Joe Ritchie headed it up, I think there was some stuff going on in this. I'm just being very forthright here. There was stuff going on in this the mission office, and somebody probably here says, I don't want Joe Ritchie reporting or da-da-da. And so they asked the sheriff at the time, who would have been Brad Slater, or no, it was either Dearden or Slater, to take that up. And somehow that got worked out, just like it is now. It transferred from the commission over to the sheriff's office. But Lance was always working from Joe. Joe wasn't there many years, maybe 2 or 3. But then Lance Peterson took over, and Eli, you're probably in this same mix. You were doing something, but you came over into there at that time.
I came over in 2009.
Okay, so that's kind of how that ended up going over there, how that worked. That whether it was a straight line, a dashed line when Lance Peterson here and was Gage was there, it was under the commission for decades. Second point, when I was here, when the first 50 by 300 parcel was talked about, wasn't where it was going to go. It was going to go along that back south fence line, kind of a diagonal, which smartly would have maybe inhibited the direction of growth where the mental health wing's being talked about now. So it was smartly moved. The budget went from where it was. But my whole feeling when I agreed to fund the whole thing was that it was going to be to store emergency management equipment. It turned out to be much more, and it was probably a great idea. Working together, the two things working together. It would store not just emergency management things. Primarily, that's what it was intended for. but it would do much more. They would do other things that came about that the sheriff's office said they need to store. And then it's became training. There was another opportunity to do training with some other things. So at my point right now, with these 3 bullet points that are here, not just the top bullet point, but the 3 things here, office location. My intent would be to have Lisa located out in that, whoever called it a training center or the training facility or whatever it's, I don't remember having a legislative session on what that would be named. Although I do know that it was paid for. Scott, how was that? How was that storage center paid?
Projects, isn't it?
It's paid for capital project. There's about 100,000 that came from the sheriff's office budget for IT equipment and furniture and stuff, but the bulk of it was from capital
The
budget.
2.6 or 3, whatever you said. So
somewhere.
out of the 2 point whatever it is, 100,000 came, or less than 5% came out of that sheriff's budget. My intent would be, Madam Chair, is that Lisa would be out there in those offices out there. We'd take scheduling and of the whole facility, since it is a Weber County facility, and schedule that with probably Sean, your office there, because Rhonda schedules the other Weber County facilities as it is now.
So you're
The storage, let me finish. The storage would remain the same, and I would hope that we could work together with radio and encryption and access and everything like that. That's my intention walking into the room today. I don't want to limit the sheriffs, what they're doing, but I certainly don't want to have EMF being limited over there either. When we built this building, I didn't build it to be locked out of anybody, to be locked out or to have open use for anybody who wanted to use it. I've just kind of sat and trusted and watched, but now that we're having a little bit of an edge on this, I certainly don't want to be, or have EMS be locked out. I don't think that's right for the people of Weber County. They trust us all to work together as a team, as you've talked about, and that would be my hope, Madam Chair, that we do that.
Okay, at this point, we gotta put this discussion on.
I
Back to the
responded to
list.
that.
Yeah.
Mr. Harvey, no one's being locked out or edged.
Well, that's what I heard.
No. I think what you're misunderstanding is this process to where we got was a complete surprise to the sheriff. Nobody in my staff knew about this. Not even Eli, not even Val. There's a lot of people that had no idea. So we're going.
Not even Lisa, by the way, and at least the talks I've had with her.
Right,
So I just want that to be.
But there was discussion about this. This is something that's not done overnight. Right? So somehow people in the decision makers have had a discussion about this for quite some time. So when we talk about shutting out, the things that have transpired here in the last several weeks, it's more about trust. These are the issues that we're struggling. We're not locking anybody out. We're coming here with an objective of, here's the umbrella of the sheriff's office. I have things I have to do, period. And then when people are underneath me, we can allow them certain this. We're just saying, hey, these are things that we need to discuss. The staff we have trust issues with Lisa. It's not an attack. It's just what has spiraled in the last couple of weeks that we've all witnessed. And like I said earlier, we want this to work. It shouldn't be separated, period. But on the email that says this will be done in 2 days, not a single member of my staff knew about this. And it's like a surgeon. A surgeon doesn't rip out a kidney. There's surgery to this. There's scalpels. There's planning. None of that has been done here. And then it's like, this is what's going to happen, and you guys got to do this. And we're in a difficult position right now. This is our struggle here, Commissioner. We don't want to lock Lisa out. We don't want to lock her equipment so she can't access it. That's not the point. There's a lot of stuff that has not been discussed about behaviors and other things that need to be discussed. The sheriff's office is a wonderful tool. And by separating this and cutting it out is not good it's not good for the public. And then now with this, what we're doing here, we're talking about lean systems. We talk about planning and saving money. This plan does not save money. It gives more work to Scott's office. It gives more work to us. We have to figure this all out. And just to say in 2 days, this is how it is, that's unfair to us, period. It's not. We like Lisa and we've always gotten along, but the last couple of months, we don't know what's going on. This is why it's a complete surprise to us. So before we start thinking that it's edgy and we're gonna lot, that's not the point. If the path that we're gonna go on continues, then it's good. This impacts a lot of our lieutenants that have come to me and complained about certain behavior. That's just our concern. That's all. That's all it is. We want it, says, we want Lisa there and to be successful. We just don't get it. This is a frustration part for us.
Sheriff, we knew when we sent that email that it wasn't gonna happen overnight. This is why we're having this conversation. This is why I connected Julie and Scott. There's still there's a lot left with Lisa.
But no one's telling us how we got to the decision.
We didn't know there was a problem.
Yeah, we didn't know there was
It's not
any
approval.
issues.
And Sheriff, I did tell you that
We
I'm
got
sorry,
other
we were
meetings.
too behind.
We got another follow-up meeting anyway later.
We do, but, what did I say?
I just wish
Oh.
the pre-plan, we would have been
The-
included, but we weren't.
The reason why, we didn't think there was a problem either. The reason why, like I told you, Sheriff, is Commissioner Harvey offered to help me with the sheriff's office, which is in my portfolio, and hold on. I've told you this before. That led to the discussion of, has it ever been under the commission? The fact that it historically was under the commission. The fact that it impacts not just your office, but Sean's division, Marty's division. And in our conversation, it was about bringing it under a larger umbrella. So that's the reason why I choose to bring it under a larger umbrella. We expect you guys to continue to work with us. There's some additional work right now with Scott and Julie and your staff and our staff. But when it levels out, it's gonna be a net zero. Whatever you guys aren't doing anymore, our staff will do. Right? To the general fund, it's a net zero. So,
There's a lot of areas that overlap though. That's the concern.
right, and that's what we wanna work through. That's what I'm saying is that's just what we wanna work through. So.
I appreciate the sentiment of offering to help, but this does not help. This does not help at all. This is a burden for us now.
I think that's where we're coming from, Commissioner. And I don't know if you mistook my words or anything like that. We can talk about that later, but it was operating just fine, and there was a lot of things that were just cohesive and not interdepartment build and things like that. When I say we didn't know what the problem is, I don't know why we need to change that. Lisa still comes and presents a budget to the commission every year that you have to approve, that you give to her, that she gets to spend and take out of there. It's just a working relationship between emergency management and the sheriff's office that has been going well. And we don't understand or see the need for it to change.
We don't want that relationship to change. We want everything to.
But the way you've handled this is kind of caused that.
Well, we'll
The
get,
blunt, it's gonna happen.
well, we'll get through that. I think
Instead
we
of
can.
like sitting down with us and saying, what do you think? It just
I
came,
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that comment, but I think we can still work through it. There's a lot still left on the list. We have another follow-up meeting this afternoon. And there will be things that will take some time. I appreciate Lisa's help, and your help, so.
Appreciate the information.
Okay,
We got a ways to go.
Christie, if the others are out there, you can send in, those ready for our closed session.
Like I said, we have a message on Monday, I think, between three of us. Just to people to say about that. Hopefully. Yeah, 45 to them. Oh, we just want that. Yeah, just the update, general. Oh, okay. Oh,
Madam Chair, motion to go into a closed session.
Thank you.
To discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of property.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to second. Commissioner Harvey,
Aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
Fair. And chair votes aye. We're now in closed session. So give me a sec.
Okay. Motion to leave the closed session and return to the work session.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 10 is adjournment.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We